everyone! Today we're gonna talk about practice mutes. The one on the left is the heavy metal mute. The one on the right is a rubber mute. Let's get started with the metal one. So this is heavy metal mute. Because of its weight, it does mute the sound very well, muffle the sound very well. If you have roommates or if you're concerned about your neighbors and they are super sensitive and you often practice at night, this mute will really do a good job. So as you may see, this mute stays very lightly on top of the bridge. You do not want to push this mute all the way down. It's pretty much sits right on top. So you're very lightly gonna, there's a little grooves and you're gonna insert into the bridge and just make sure you go straight, and that's it. And it's obviously it's not even will go down if you start pushing. Because of its weight, this mute very nicely muffled the sound, and when you play on it, it really, the sound seems to be very even. All the notes on every single strings are pretty much the same, nice and silent. This what I don't like about this mute is the fact that when strings are vibrating as you play, this mute gets very, very loose. If you are a person that is very emotional as you play, and when you move a lot, and obviously you move your instruments and the strings are vibrating, this mute also can very easily fall off. So this is something that I really don't like, because when you use this mute, you have to be incredibly careful. It does give me a good sound, but unfortunately it's quite dangerous to use. If you use this mute a lot, and I mean like, let's say almost every single day, you might end up damaging the bridge as well as the bass bar. This is a little part that runs under the top part of the violin, and because of its weight. So I really would not recommend to use it on a regular basis. If you are looking for a practice mute to use pretty much every day, you probably want to think twice about this mute. I was very happy to discover ultralight rubber practice mute. This mute is so much lighter than the metal mute. Looks pretty similar, has a few more of this feet here, but it's very light and it's made of rubber, so it's not gonna damage your instrument even if it falls, which is pretty impossible, speaking about falling. This mute, let's see, the other one I told you it has to stay pretty much on top of the bridge. Now this mute, on the other hand, you want to push all the way down. Now if you do not push all the way down, this mute is not going to be as effective. It will still mute slightly your instrument. If you, let's say, put on top of it, it's gonna sounds a little bit more like a regular mute, and the further you push down, the more it's gonna mute. So obviously when you push all the way down, it will mute pretty nicely. Sound wise, they are both comparable. The heavy metal mute gives me more even sound. On the other hand, the rubber mute is not as even in sound wise speaking as the metal mute. I like to use this better, obviously, because of the safety, and is just light and sits very nicely on top, and I don't have to worry if I move, if I'm being very emotional once I play. And again, I was worrying about the other mute falling off. There's just gonna be nothing happening to this mute. As you can see, I can put it upside down and this mute is just not gonna fall. The other one will just completely fall off the bridge. So I do like this mute, although it's not giving me such a great sound as the metal one. So speaking of sound, let's just listen. So as you notice, both mutes are pretty comparable sound-wise. The heavy metal one is a little bit more silent than the rubber one, but I personally would choose the rubber one is because it's just easier to use and it's safer, and I know that it won't damage my instrument. I generally don't use those mutes every single day. I'm not in the situation that I have to you know, mute my sound every single time I practice. But if you're a student, that's something probably you want to have it, especially, like I said, if you have neighbors or roommates and you still want to practice, you know, you can pick up one of these mutes and just try for yourself. I wrote a blog post about these two mutes and I compared them both there. There's lots of pictures you may want to go and visit. There's also some links or where to purchase those mutes, and you can also find me on Facebook. You can like me on Facebook. You can follow me on Instagram, and yeah, please subscribe for more interesting videos. Bye!